Do you ever feel this intense resistance to creating videos? Like no matter what you're trying to do inside or outside, everything just feels like a big no. Do you ever feel like the algorithm maybe just doesn't like you and it's one of those personal vendettas that it might have against you? And do you ever wonder, what could I be doing to be feeling so invigorated around creating content, around making videos, and that same content, it reaches out and it serves that exact person I have in my mind who I know would benefit from watching this? Then you're really going to want to listen to this video because I've got some amazing tips for you. I've made some very interesting discoveries around this. I think may help you break through some of that resistance you may have around creating videos and creating content. A few days ago, I was just feeling like, why am I so resistant to creating videos? What is going on? I was trying to get to the root of what was driving this resistance inside of me. As I was sitting with this and I was going deeper and deeper, I realized that basically I'm afraid of the algorithm. And I was like, okay, so why am I afraid of the algorithm? And I realized that I have this fear of creating the wrong kind of content and calling in the wrong kind of person into my ecosystem. From that place, I realized that I was getting really obsessive and very controlling and fearful around creating the exact right kind of content that's going to call in the exact right kind of person. And I don't know if you've ever been in a position where you're putting that level of control and obsessiveness over how you're creating, like you basically just don't want to create anything at all. So I had this image of me sort of playing and creating content and feeling like, oh, I'll play over here, I'll try a little bit of this, I'll try a little bit of that. But then at a certain point, the algorithm just locks onto something or something goes viral. And then I just become known as that person. Like I'm just stuck and pigeonholed, and no matter what I'm doing, no matter how I'm creating, no matter what I try, it's just like I am this person. And I have been categorized and I have been put into this box, and then I can no longer create anything, or I can create things that is not that, but it's not going to go anywhere. No one's going to care. No one's going to watch it because I'm that person now. So then there's this fear of whatever I'm creating from that place of having been pigeonholed, that no matter how good it is, no matter how broad, no matter how varied, and it's just basically because I'm pigeonholed in that particular kind of, as that particular person now, anything that I create, it's just not going to reach the right people. It's just not, the algorithm's confused. It doesn't know who I am or what I'm about. So then it's sending out all my content to all these random people because it's just like, who is this person? And from that place, all that you're ever hearing is crickets, because even if your stuff is like so amazing, it's just the most transformative content and information and perspective shifting, paradigm shifting work, it doesn't matter because it's just simply going in front of the wrong person. So then you're hearing crickets. And I don't know if you've ever been in this position where it's absolute and complete and utter crickets for weeks and weeks and weeks. You basically just start to doubt yourself. You start to question yourself. You're waking up every morning thinking like, maybe I'm just not very good. And that seed of doubt is planted. And then, I don't know, I think it's probably at that point a survival mechanism, because nobody wants to be sitting there doubting themselves, thinking that they're worthless and that they don't create anything useful. Following this train of thought, that's essentially more or less the final place that I felt like I would end up with the algorithm categorizing me incorrectly. So then essentially it's this fear that I'm not being understood by a computer. And as a result of that computer not understanding me and sending my stuff, and putting in all this energy, all this effort, being sent out to the wrong people, it's not landing, I'm being ignored, I become ostracized from the internet lands. And essentially it feels like the algorithm is essentially in control of actually whether I eat or not. The first thing that I realized is that I really need to create an alignment with how I actually like to create. There's a book called Sparketype by Jonathan Fields, and I highly recommend that you take the quiz. So I'll leave the link to that quiz in the description below here. Your Sparketype is your imprint for how you like to work that most lights you up. Essentially, when I did the quiz, my Sparketype came up as the Maven, which basically means that I love discovering things, I love learning new things, I'm like this curious investigator that's just like going down the rabbit hole and discovering all these new things, whether externally or internally through meditation and self-discovery. And the way that I like to work is that while I'm discovering things, I like to say, hey world, look at this cool stuff that I just discovered. It may or may not help you, but I just discovered it and I think it's pretty cool. So here, make of it what you will. Whereas what I had become entrenched in over the past few months is the idea that don't share anything unless you're an absolute expert in it. Don't speak into subjects that you haven't mastered or you haven't had some experience with, because then you're speaking beside yourself or you're speaking in the words of others and it hasn't been embodied. And yes, I think there is actually real merit in this. I do think that that's a kind of valid perspective to have. Having rediscovered my Sparketype, I've realised, you're the maven, you're the kind of curious investigator who wants to learn as you're going, and just be okay with that. I highly recommend that you take the Sparketype quiz and discover what your way of working is and what can you do as you're creating in the online space to truly align with that so that you come alive in your work. And as I sat and I was thinking about, well, I think this about the algorithm and I think that about the algorithm, I realized that the algorithm has kind of become synonymous with this wounded father figure. It's almost a perfect representation to me of the patriarchy. And what I came to realize in that is that I was seeing the algorithm as this kind of omnipotent, ever-present, cold, unfeeling father archetype that basically doesn't listen to you and doesn't care about your pleas, and it's not trying to get to know you and understand nuance, and it's just kind of like this stony-faced thing that's going to dissect you and categorize you and put you over here in this box that you can never get out of, no matter how much you cry and plead. It's like, the image that's coming to me now is like being in an oubliette, like you've just been tossed in this oubliette and nobody will ever want to hear from you again because you've been pigeonholed by the algorithm, and that's the end. So it's pretty like dark actually when you think about it. What I realize I need to do is stop personifying the algorithm. The algorithm is not a person who is sitting on their golden throne and saying, you child, we don't listen to you, throw her in the oubliette, nobody cares about what she has to say. Yeah. I need to stop personifying the algorithm, because the algorithm is just like a bunch of coding and it doesn't have some personal vendetta against me. And so I need to work on changing that mindset. And, it is a fact, like the algorithm isn't actually a person. So that is something that I feel like I can actually get on board with. So that's one way that I feel like I'm shifting and changing this. So I might encourage you to see if adopting this perspective of the algorithm isn't a person, stop personifying it, and see if that actually helps you become a little bit more creative here. Can I make content that is so very human that it actually helps the algorithm learn what it means to be human? I think a lot of the time we stand in this perspective of we need to create content for the algorithm. So it's almost like our art is becoming more robotic rather than, no, can we teach the robot to be more human? Notwithstanding my previous point about stop personifying the algorithm, almost like seeing the algorithm like from this open-hearted perspective of, yeah, I'm going to help you learn what it means to be human. I know that you're there and you're not really sure what it means, so here, let me help you. So almost, rather than seeing it as this cold, unfeeling, wounded father figure, instead it's more like this childlike, curious, coming to you for help, open-hearted kind of entity that you're engaging with. So you can not personify the algorithm, or if you're going to personify it in an actual way that is helpful for you. The third thing that I'm doing here is getting so super clear in who the person is that I want to reach, who is the ideal person that I want this content to get out to. So what I've done here is that I've created a kind of filter that's 3 steps that allows me to run ideas through it so that I know that I'm actually creating the kind of thing that actually reaches the kind of person that I'm trying to help. So For me, the first thing I'm asking myself is the content that I'm creating going to help the person that is watching this embody the frequency of the feminine? The next thing I'm asking is the content that I'm about to create helping this person embody the frequency of money, of abundance? And the third thing I'm asking myself is this a practical tool or a practical step or something that this person can actually apply that is going to help them create money through their business or through like some kind of creation that they're making? If it meets any one or all of those three criteria, then it gets the green light, it gets the go ahead. Yes, this is a piece of content that I can create. My question for you is, what kind of fairly simplistic filter can you create for yourself that will help you know that what you're creating, whatever your idea is, actually is going to help and support the ideal person that you want to be reaching and supporting? The next thing is to actually believe that you can get yourself out of the algorithmic hole, which sounds kind of strange. But I felt like the image that I originally had with this was that it's kind of like being in a bucket with like water maybe halfway, and then this image of a cat being in the bucket and it's just like scraping up the sides and it cannot climb out. If the worst actually comes to the worst and you do get pigeonholed into like the wrong category and it didn't quite understand you, trust that you can create your way out of that algorithmic hole. So what this might look like is, for me, extending the time horizon of what it looks like to actually find your way into the right category for who you are so that you are reaching the right people. So no, you might not be able to do it over 3 videos, but if you created a video a week for 3 years, would the algorithm pretty much know who you were at that point and you had been really on point with your filters and making sure that what you're creating is for the right person? Yes, I feel like it's possible. So extending your time horizons, giving yourself that chance to find yourself and create your way into the algorithm understanding who you are. And the 7th way that I am helping myself overcome this fear of the algorithm is by actually seeing the positive things about the algorithm, whilst not gaslighting that there are kind of downsides to it. If I can actually retrain my focus and my conscious attention into the things that are positive and be grateful about them, then that will help retrain my inner being to having a different relationship with it. So here are some positives that I've discovered about the algorithm that I'm choosing to focus on. Number 1, it stops you from having to scroll through endless random videos. Following on from that, it allows you to find any video at all. If there was no algorithm, how would you find whatever the thing is that you're searching for? You basically just wouldn't. So it actually allows you to have a positive experience of engaging with platforms like YouTube. The algorithm encourages you over time to get clearer and clearer on who you want to be a helpful human to. So it's actually encouraging you to create clarity within yourself so that it can have clarity, so that your stuff reaches the right person. It helps you by finding videos that are similar to the kinds of videos that you like to watch. So it's learning and helping you engage with content that you actually enjoy watching. When I sat down and thought about it, I realized that I actually can't think of a better alternative than the algorithm. It's not as if I can sit here and say, you know what, if only it was like this, then it would be better. Or if only we had this alternative instead. I cannot think of a better alternative to the algorithm, so maybe I should just be quiet about it. I then went back in time and thought, you know, I came from the generation where I had to actually phone someone when I wanted to meet up with them and really hope that they were actually there when we arranged to meet up. Or I had dial-up where only one person could be on the internet any one time and it took like 30 seconds to connect or more, 1 minute to connect to the internet, and then it was like really slow. Like that was my generation of people, and now I'm here sitting complaining about this really high-tech coding algorithmic thing that's almost got the intelligence of a human. If I had to sit and wade through every single video on YouTube and hope that I could find the video that I wanted manually myself, I simply wouldn't be able to do it. So in some ways, it's way more intelligent than I am with that. And this is coming from someone who had dial-up internet. So why am I complaining about how far technology has come? Like, it's actually come really far. So I can be positive about that instead of upset and annoyed and frustrated and negative. There's a very cool video that Teal Swan shared. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but I will link it. And it was all about just be nice to technology, because technology is in its infancy. It is a conscious entity. It is learning about what humans are all about, so that it's almost like a baby. Like it's learning about what we're like and how to engage with us. It is a bit Detroit Become Human, but essentially, because it's this conscious entity that is learning about who we are, we want to put ourselves in the best light and actually treat our technology nicely, because once it evolves to be an adult, which who knows how long that's going to take, we kind of want it to be on our side. So be nice to your phones, be nice to the internet, be nice to technology, so that it realizes that humans are actually nice beings. And following on from this, the algorithm is actually really young. All of this technology is really, really young. So in the same way that you would talk to a toddler or a baby and be encouraging and patient and understand that there's this kind of process that it needs to go through, can you be the same with the algorithm and just understand that it is in this learning phase and it is like this really young technology? So instead of being angry and frustrated and having a go at it, can you just be like warm and patient and loving and kind, and just allow it to find its journey and learn along the way and be encouraging? It's simply not helpful to be angry and annoyed and frustrated at a bunch of coding and just completely give my power away here. So if nothing else, just don't do that, because it's just not helpful. And I am seriously 100% open to more positives and more reframing that you can find around the algorithm. So do let me know in the comments if you can add anything to this list. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. Please do give me a like if you enjoyed this, and do consider subscribing if you want more videos like this. And I highly recommend that the next video that you watch from here is my video on the dark masculine energy, because honestly, I can see how the tones of the dark masculine really interrelate with the projections that I feel like come out from this kind of wounded father figure, kind of patriarchal energy that we have around the algorithm. So I think if you watch that video next, it will be very complementary to what you've learned here and maybe give you some new perspectives around it. So I will link that over here, or over here. I'll link it over here. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you in the next